So welcome back to another session right here on FoodTech21. My name is Paul Barron, and I'm going to be your host today, moderating this great panel. And it's really talking about the autonomous food service revolution that is occurring, both companies and technologies that are really kind of advancing to the next level. With me today, I've got three great experts. I've got Vipin Jain, who is the CEO and co-founder of Blendid. Great to have you. I've got Randall Wilkinson, who is the CEO of Wilkinson Baking Company. And then also with me today, I've got Andy Lin, who is the CEO and founder of Yokai Express. Great to have all of you guys on. This, I think, will be a lively discussion. I want to get started quickly because we're going to have a ton of questions here, and I want to just kind of go down the line. Vipin, let's go with you first, and tell me a little bit about Blendid and what you guys are all about.
Good morning, Paul, and thank you for having me here. And it's really good to be here with my amazing co-panelists. So Blendid, we started the company with a mission to make healthy, fresh, and delicious food affordable and accessible to everyone. And at the time when we started, we realized that robotics and artificial intelligence was at a point where we could use these technologies to build food automation solutions to serve the purpose. And using that, we launched our first concept called Blendid in 2019 commercially, which is a fully autonomous and completely contactless robotic kiosk that prepares healthy, fresh, and delicious smoothie blends. This is an 8 feet by 8 feet kiosk. It uses all the healthy ingredients, everything from different solids such as kale, spinach, carrots, bananas, berries, to different types of liquids such as coconut water, almond milk, kefir, which is a yogurt-like drink that's very rich in probiotics, good for your gut. Different types of superfoods, chia, flax, ginger, and others. And it uses all these nutritious, healthy ingredients to formulate really delicious smoothie blends that can be completely customized to a consumer's taste, allergies, and nutrition needs, and offer them for on-the-go consumption. So this is
very cool.
Yeah, we are on our journey, and I think it is still, as I tell everybody, we are still on the first base. There is so much more to be done.
Yeah, I mean, Cafe X was one of the first companies that I had been introduced to many years ago when Henry was out there doing robotic coffee delivery, and I thought, hey, this is going to eventually be something that I think really tracks on. Randall, let's kind of jump to you. Baking,
Sure.
Who would have thought robotic baking would be a thing? Apparently you guys have got something going there. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, it's the first time that bread has been a fully automated baking process. The BreadBot is a machine that takes bread from the scratch ingredients all the way through the process of making the dough, kneading it, allowing it to rise, and then bake, and then cool. All of this happens transparently in front of the consumer in a grocery store where they can see their bread being made. They enjoy the aroma. They're able to engage with that process. And the interesting thing is that by doing it in the grocery store, you actually cut virtually 50% of the wholesale cost of bread because of this transition into the production into the stores. So you can use it to make healthier, better bread that's fresher. People can actually have it dispensed from the unit and have bread hot out of the oven that they can take home, freshest bread available.
I can just see these kiosks and the aroma that would, I think you'd probably grab a crowd just based on, kind of the baking centers that this is going to generate in different places. Andy, let's jump to you real quick and get into Yokai and kind of what you guys are doing.
Yeah, so Yokai tried to create a very unique platform that we can connect all the restaurants, owner, and then consumers together, even like closer than before. And then we can serve the gourmet food anytime, anywhere, from physical autonomous restaurant location to smart kitchen appliance, which we're gonna announce next week. And then also we will create a unique ecosystem, which we will eliminate a boundary between online and offline food service. And then by doing that, actually everybody can enjoy any kind of a gourmet meal like noodle, rice plate, dim sum, or anything that you can imagine, like 24/7.
All right. This is okay. So we're going to jump into this. This is one of my predictions that I had. I do my prediction show every year on our network, and it's kind of fun because in many cases I'm all wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong on this. And that is kind of how consumers are going to be adopting AI and the understanding of robots or machines preparing our food. I want to kind of throw this question to the panel, and maybe Randall, let's start with you. What are your thoughts on how consumers are going to adopt AI operations? I mean, the restaurant industry for a long time has obviously been built on personal relationships. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, what happens with the experience we've had with the consumer in the store is that there's an intuitive appreciation of what's happening in front of them. This transparency pulls them in all the way from kids on through the adults. They take in what they're seeing. They're taking in that transition of the bread from raw ingredients all the way through to the baked bread. And so in terms of adoption, what we're seeing is a great deal of appreciation for this robotic making. One of the things that's interesting as well is, particularly in the COVID environment that we are experiencing right now, is this ability to see, as I say, from scratch all the way through to the baked bread, knowing your bread has never been touched. You're the one that's able to have that bread dispensed, take it with you. And that experience is something that is being adopted very readily. And then just quickly as to the AI or the machine learning side of it, because these are all networked bread bots, we're able to learn with each sequential loaf whether the conditions are tweaked properly, whether everything is precisely what it needs to be. So it's actually production being done widely, but single loaf at a time.
Yeah, interesting. I want to talk to you about mother dough in a minute, but before we go, I want to continue on down this track of kind of this consumer interface and the UX and all those kind of things. Andy, talk to me a little bit about kind of how you guys have integrated these bacterial films for like the touch screens. Obviously, that's a big deal now with consumers. Everybody's worried about touching things. Talk to me a little bit about that, because obviously that's going to be a big user experience situation.
Exactly. So since COVID happened, and then a lot of restaurant has been ordered to shut down, and vending machine will be some of the resource for the customer to get the food. The traditional vending machine, you always need to touch the button or the touch screen in order to place the order. So a lot of customer asks us if we have a contactless solution, which we have a user app which they can download and order. But what if some people, they don't use the app, they don't have a smartphone? How are they going to use it? They still need to use the touch screen. So that's why we found out some EPA approved material which we can make a special film on top of the touch screen. So you will kill the bacteria or some virus. So make sure that everything will be clean. And not only the film on top of the machine, also during the pre-order and post-order, we will also use a high temperature steam to clean the chamber, which potential the customer can touch. So I think during this process, we can make sure that every order will be very clean and then safe.
Yeah. I think that's going to be a big factor in our future, especially around automated and AI systems being built. Is the cleanliness factor is going to be a huge, I think, a huge differentiator, especially as we kind of move out of COVID-19 and kind of getting back to normal over the next, whether it's in 2021 or beyond. This issue of consumer acceptance and being able to go to that next level is going to be very important. And there's a ton of companies that are really starting to scale. And I want to talk to you, Vipin, about how you guys deal with freshness, because obviously you're dealing with smoothies. In most smoothie shops, these guys are seeing fresh fruit and fresh ingredients coming in almost by the hour. How do you guys deal with that on a day in, day out basis in your bot situation there?
Yes, I think there are two. So let me address add to what Andy was talking about earlier to the consumer adoption piece. I think there are, and then I will address the freshness piece. So consumer adoption, I think there are two aspects to it. One is in a normal environment, what value does robotics and AI bring to a consumer? And I think the biggest value that you can imagine is that if a consumer can get highly personalized food that is made to their body, to their taste, to their allergies, to their body type, any time of the day, where you are not constrained by the operating hours of the restaurant or food service. I think that's the biggest value, where you can get food reliably, you can afford that food, and it's made for you. That is the biggest value proposition. The COVID, I think, obviously add the food safety aspect to it, and how do you win the trust and confidence of consumers that it is safe to order, right? So Eddie talked about how you can do that using the touchscreen innovation. I think when we think about blended experience, and if you walk into a blended kiosk, I think one aspect that we address is, yes, you can use a mobile phone, you can use a mobile app to place the order. So completely digital experience. Now, real estate on mobile phone is precious. People don't necessarily download the apps the first time or second time when you interact with a new concept. So what we added for food safety side is a QR code. So when you walk into a blended environment, blended kiosk, there is a QR code. You can just point your phone to the QR code. No need to touch anything. There is no shared screen. You don't need to download the app. You scan the QR code. It will pull the menu at that location, and you can place the order from your phone without downloading the app. So completely touchless. No need to worry about shared screen. No need to worry about any surface cleaning that needs to be done. Now, when it comes to freshness, I think this is where, from the get-go, we were very clear that we were going to tap into existing supply chain that is well-established, use commercially available products from high-quality sources, high-quality ingredients sourced from high-quality sources with checks and balances and audit trail. So we use different types of solids, liquids, superfoods in our environment. Everything is precisely temperature controlled inside the kiosk. So we have, so for example, solids, kale, spinach, carrots, berries, we maintain all of them in flash frozen state. So we source flash frozen products. This is when you harvest these ingredients, you immediately use liquid nitrogen to flash freeze. And you maintain all the nutrition at the goodness about it. And it's maintained through the supply chain in that IQF or flash frozen state. And we maintain them at -5 degrees Fahrenheit inside the kiosk. Each solid is maintained at -5. Each liquid and superfood is maintained at chilled at 37 degrees Fahrenheit. So very precise temperature control, and they are dispensed precisely, they're formulated precisely, and if there is any temperature variance, this is part of also the NSF certification that we went through for Blendid. It's all, any temperature variance is automatically recorded in the cloud. Operators are alerted. Inspection is done if you are out of bound or out of spec. So you can take the necessary action to replace any ingredient in case of any failure or variance that might occur. So very safe environment. I'll maintain the freshness of the ingredients and the final product in a very safe environment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the good thing is that you've got some technology implementation in place to kind of deal with that. So I think that is going to be a factor. And I continue to, we've talked about many operators in the industry that we feel like the scalability is going to be a huge factor, but being able to scale in the future is really going to depend on really kind of technology and systems like all of you and what you're building out there to be able to help some restaurant operators and also just in general food service kind of move to that next level. I want to jump to you, Randall, and that is talking about baking and bread. Obviously, there's some time involved in doing bread baking, and also curious how. I mean, I've not worked in the bakery industry, but I've worked with a lot of companies that are in the bakery industry. And mother dough is kind of a big thing. It's, I know Boudin Bakery in San Francisco, they literally used armed guards transitioning mother dough from one place to the next. Talk to me how you guys distribute your dough component. Is it coming out in the dough balls themselves, or do you actually do the dough mixing on location?
So generally, probably you're referring like the Bodine to a sourdough type bread.
Exactly.
Which
yep.
we do, but not in quite the same way. Having said that, most bread, most sandwich bread, most, whether it's whole wheat, white,
That's a good
honey
starter.
oat, whatever,
Yeah.
is actually made using the flour, the basic ingredients plus the yeast that then you knead together to make the dough. So this all comes from scratch, and as such, you don't have the mother dough that you need to worry about in the same sense as a true sourdough bread. So that's the process that we use. In terms of the made to order or the time frame, regardless of how you do it, you have to bring together the yeast and the dough and give time for the yeast to produce the gas bubbles that cause the dough to rise. And this takes time, and then you require the baking. So even in a relatively accelerated time frame that we have of about 90 minutes from the dry ingredient to the finished loaf, is time that's necessary. So it's not in the bread bot situation that a person says, make me a loaf of X, but rather that in the grocery store, the store says, we're going to need 85 loaves of bread today. So it's being made continuously through the day. You come in and there's bread coming out of the oven. You say, bring one of those hot loaves that just came out to me, and I'm taking that home.
Are you guys tying into some of the chain supply systems in terms of the on-demand need, whether it's coming from their POS or their supply chain aspects of volume? Are you tying into that to be able to determine how much volume you're going to need?
That is, we're currently in the early phases of integrating with POS so that we can do that. But yes, ultimately the production will be production that is predictively identifying what on a Tuesday afternoon will be needed and increasing or decreasing production to make sure that there's continuing fresh bread for the consumer.
Okay, all right. So production is somewhat tied into the operation. Do you feel like these are going to be primarily is your plan to be primarily for the grocery side, or would these be at some point standalone things that you could do as far as a kiosk throughout a community?
Actually, we see a wide range of applications. A couple of things. We do see a version 2.0 coming, where what will happen is that you are able to say, okay, what I want is a sunflower seed with 50% extra sunflower seeds, light on the salt. I want 2 loaves. I want it at 3 o'clock when I come to the store. And by doing so from your app, you're able to pick that up at the store when you come in. So that kind of personalization we do see coming. At present, we're not doing that. Now, having said that, what are the environments that we see? Because in the U.S., the vast majority of bread is sold in the grocery store. That's where we want to be coming out of the gate. Having said that, the application is actually fairly broad. So the U.S. Navy, for example, has a bread bot that they're testing for potential application on board ships so that the bread can be made fresh continuously in that context. We're working with food service providers looking at doing it in cafeterias for hospitals or for university cafeterias, et cetera. The cruise ships have been asking, there's a wide range of applications that we see for how the position will be for locations.
Interesting. It's going to be interesting to watch as we see a lot of this technology really starting to take place. It seems like really about the last 2 years, the advancements have been just really striking to me. Andy, let's jump to
Paul,
you. Go ahead.
The interesting thing is that we announced the BreadBot at Consumer Electronics Show CES 2019, and we're gratified but amazed at how big a story it became for a little company like ours. The actuality is that we've received requests for distribution for the BreadBot from 111 countries at this point.
Oh, wow.
There's that kind of broad interest in bread because bread is just such a universal food.
Yeah. Yeah, demand is there. Andy, I want to jump to you because this is intriguing to me when you look at, your culinary side of things. This could be one of those aspects where, there's so much on-demand requirement for this. Asian is one of the biggest categories for third-party delivery in some of the marketplaces. How is your system going to be able to integrate? Is it designed strictly for pickup or takeout? Or is this something that could eventually tie into a third-party delivery system? I'm kind of curious where you guys are going with that.
Now, that's a very good question because, everybody is looking for cloud kitchen and ghost kitchen, right? So actually just imagine we put the ghost kitchen, cloud kitchen in a box.
Yeah.
So we can distribute everywhere. For example, we have a 22 location in the Bay Area, right? And then we right now trying to integrate with a food delivery service like Uber Eats, DoorDash.
Right.
And then even we expand our footprint to Taiwan last month and then working on the Japanese market. So we also work with a Southeast Asia like Grab. So those kind of food delivery company, we can actually integrate the system into our POS and our cloud service. So, for example, if I'm the consumer and I want to purchase through the Uber Eats or some other delivery company,
Right.
they just use their app and then find Yokai Express and then the food they want, and then they order through their app, and then their system will dispatch the pickup code to the driver. So basically, driver just need to come to our kiosk and then press the pickup code. Then machine will dispense the food to them. So that would be very straightforward. And just imagine that you, instead of one centralized ghost kitchen, but right now you have a 22 different, satellite kitchen everywhere.
Right, right. The facility itself, I'm kind of curious, is this a self-container facility? Is it something that you're dropping into other operations? What kind of footprint do you need for Yokai?
So that's a very good question because we are pretty small. Our footprint is only 6 feet by 3 feet, but we can support fully loaded 88 servings. So basically, our menu item, we can go up to like 22, 25 different menu items. And then that's why we create a Yokai platform. And then we work with a lot of famous chef, restaurant owners. We try to bring all kind of, famous brand from the worldwide. And then we can, put their signature recipe to like from Japan to US, from US to Japan. There's no boundary at all.
Yeah, interesting. Definitely a area I think that's going to explode as we move forward, and especially in how food service is going to be done. Vipin, I want to get your last thoughts on where you think this is going. If you had your crystal ball and it's 3 years, 5 years down the line, do you feel like we're going to see mass adoption or moderate adoption of robotic and automation in food service?
I think if you look at 5 years out, I think you will see food automation using robotics becoming mainstream. I can totally see, for example, using Blendid food automation platform, I can totally see a completely robotic food court where you walk in, you have a completely digital experience, you have a mobile app like Blendid. You have 4 or 5 different cuisines available, and you can pick an item. And as soon as you pick an item, the system knows exactly how that dish should be prepared for you, how that blend should be prepared for you, how some other concept should be prepared for you to your taste and perfection. And you don't need to touch anything when you know exactly where your order is. And When the order is ready, you can just walk over, you can identify yourself, and the robot can deliver. This is how the blended experience works today, where the whole experience is completely digital. And by the way, if you are late for whatever reason because you order using your app and you don't happen to be on site at exactly the time, Blended robot will store your order. It will store your prepared order until you arrive. And when you arrive, you can identify yourself to deliver. And I think that is the experience you need to have in a completely robotic food court 5 years out, where you know that you can have access to good food any time of the day, anywhere you are. I mean, this is literally my dream for a replicator. And that was the inspiration for me personally more than 5 years ago to build a replicator. And I don't know how, if you know about Star Trek, but I'm a self-proclaimed Trekkie, Star Trek fanatic. And Star Trek has a beautiful thing, which is, and Star Trek has a beautiful thing called replicator, and it can make food exactly to your taste and perfection every single time. And this is what I think the future holds, that you will have these replicators that can make any food you want. You just walk into this food service environment, you will have freshest food, made to order, to your taste, to your body, to your microbiome, and you can enjoy it.
Well, those are some very good points. I think those are some very good points. Not too far off in the future, for sure. Gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for stopping in today. This has been a great panel, and I love the fact that you guys are all innovating in very unique spaces. I think that's going to be the differentiator as we see the markets go forward in food service, grocery, and just in general with how automation is going to change the way we eat and live out there in the future. So thanks again for stopping in. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Very much.
All right, so live long and prosper there, Vipin. Okay.
I can't do that quite, but yeah, close enough.
Not a problem. I've been practicing that for a while because I knew you were coming on. All right, for all you guys tuning in, make sure and hit the chat on whether you're below or on the side, depending on the device you're using. You can also kind of exchange thoughts and ideas in the chat if you have some questions. We'll also throw out links in the chat if you want to get to some of these companies. We'll be able to provide those links to you. Make sure and stay tuned right here for more great coverage on FoodTech 21, and we will catch you next time.